Good afternoon.
Good evening.
Or whatever time you're listening.
And you're listening to...
Listen very carefully. The podcast for people who love all things Allo.
So, let's begin.
I'm Kim Hartman, and I played the part of Helga.
I'm Guy Signer, and I played Lieutenant Gruber.
And I am Richard Gibson, and I played Herr Flick.
Excellent.
Right.
Fabulous.
Who's going to start?
Well, I hardly wrote any notes because I was enjoying it so much. I just kept sitting and chortling.
Being
at what was going on.
entertained.
Yeah.
It was a chortler, wasn't it?
It was a definite chortler.
We've definitely got to the point now, as far as I'm concerned, where I haven't seen these before. Because I think at the time we were, because we were doing the stage
We were busy.
show and working, I didn't sort of watch them because they were being shown once a week. And it's brilliant to see them now.
Yes. I think I do remember watching this one, but...
Do you? It's funny, I think I mentioned once before that I made a Doctor Who years and years and years before this that I never saw, because at that time they were shown once and then they were repeated, and it happened on both, and it was before video.
Yes.
Video recorders and home, DVDs and things. And at that time I happened to be working both times it was TX'd, and so I never saw it.
Yes.
Until very recently, David Mansell bought me a copy of it and made me sit down and watch it. But yeah, I don't think I saw this episode, and I loved it. I thought it was
so entertaining.
So entertaining.
So, Series 2, Episode 11. Let's start.
Okay.
Start annoying us
and
before
it's actually Season 5, Episode 11.
Yes.
So for some reason, I still can't work out why both the numbers for the podcast
Coincided.
and the telly.
I'll tell you why,
coincided.
because this would be something like 33 or 34.
Yeah.
But when we made it into 2 seasons, we started the second season with 1, 2, 3, Season 2, Episode 1, 2, 3, and now we're up to 11.
Viewers and listeners, aren't you fascinated?
I'm actually becoming a numbering geek.
You're both numbering geeks, and I think I'm going to be sick.
Yes. Anybody like a wine drum?
Not for me, thank you.
Since we're
No,
not
I don't
having
think
wine.
I will. Actually,
Doesn't go well with tea. Have you noticed the pretty teapots and the lovely teacups?
I just want to say how nice I thought the back passage was. Oh no, it's the front passage, isn't
The
it?
big front passage.
Outside the cafe, you have a nice little scene.
Oh, yes.
You have a rather nice little
I
scene.
have to say, I did enjoy that scene. It was a lovely little scene. It was quite quiet and gentle and effective, I thought.
And suggestions that René might come to your place and all that.
Yes.
What would we do with him? All that. I don't know if anyone else noticed. This is a small set watch. But they have all the little adverts outside.
Yeah.
There was a Le Coq.
Oh.
Le C-O-Q.
Le Coq.
That was a little twinkle from somebody, wasn't it?
Yes. Yes.
This October, we will be appearing live in our Listen Very Carefully stage show
In Guildford?
Salford.
and Shrewsbury.
For booking details, go to fane.co.uk.
That's F for Fanny
A for Alphonse.
N for Nouvion.
and E for Engelbert. I should mention immediately the supporting artist who played the general, the French general, who I thought was absolutely brilliant.
Again.
And his face is just, he's got the most wonderfully funny expression on his face.
He has, hasn't he?
A dead expression.
Yes.
But sort of slightly
Twinkly and dead.
twinkly dead. Yes,
Yes.
twinkly dead.
But-
really good, just right.
But yes, perfect focus. He didn't blink once. He to all intents and purposes, he was completely paralysed.
But he also fell forward
And then
didn't
he
break his nose
fell forward
twice.
And
Well, we
didn't-
hope he didn't break his nose. We never actually found out whether he hurt himself.
You'd never asked how he was or anything.
It was so good.
And he didn't get a credit at the end of the show.
Such a shame.
He really deserved it.
Yeah.
He did deserve it, didn't he, to be part
Listeners,
of the past?
viewers, if anybody knows the name of the man who played the paralysed general,
The French general.
you know what the address is. It's
Pod at
Helga
Gruber.
Flick.com. That's pod at helgagruberflick.com.
So please, we would like to know if anybody does, or if indeed he happens to be a listener and or watcher, we would love to know who he was, because we'd like to congratulate him and say thank you.
He was a bit special.
He was
Yeah.
very, very good.
Yeah,
And then it moved on. Carmen had some lovely stuff, didn't she? Edith.
Yes.
Detailed and with a little bit of depth to it. I
Yeah.
really thought she carried off. But we then went into the General's office.
Oh,
And
yes.
General Don Klinkerhoffen.
At the Colonel's office.
Sorry, the
Colonel's
Colonel's office
And von Klinkerhoffen coming in.
with the General. And the glass thing was set up straight away. You went, oh, I know what's going on with those. Anything of value
The
is
17th century glasses.
yes,
Yeah.
asking for it.
Yeah.
We
But
just
he had
knew
such lovely
they
stuff.
were going to be
didn't
thrown into the fireplace.
he? Yes,
But he did have some good stuff, didn't he?
the General.
The General
Yes.
this time.
Yeah.
And I particularly loved when he was talking about the planning meeting they were going to have, that they were going to use little toy tanks and little jelly babies.
Jelly babies.
To represent jelly babies to represent the German soldiers who
That's
were
right.
invading the beaches.
Yes.
But it was
It's just
so
such a
packed.
silly idea, because you know it's all going to go wrong, don't you? Even as he's revealing his master plan, you just know it's all going to go.
Well, it's set
hideously
up to
pear-shaped.
fail, isn't it?
Yeah.
That's the whole point,
Yeah.
isn't it?
It always is. I was wondering whether Michelle of the Resistance towards the end of the episode was going to say, "Oh no, another cock up," because it was another cock up.
Yeah.
But she went off in another direction altogether.
Indeed.
I mean, magnificent.
Yeah. Yeah. Well,
Come to me.
Explain to
Of
the
course, I
listeners
keep
how
forgetting
the
that not
direction.
everybody's been watching it. No,
Oh,
you
oh.
explain
I
it.
saw last week when she pretended, because René was threatening to leave the Resistance in a pet, and no longer was prepared to be the hero, and Michelle used the ruse of pretending to fall in love with him
That's right.
and gave him one in the back room.
That's right. And he came all dishevelled, didn't he?
Yeah.
Yes, and with lipstick on his
Yeah.
cheek.
Yeah.
And yes, and so this week she was pretending yet again to still love him, because once again it
before
became
that-
necessary.
He was driving her around the tweest.
yes,
Driving me around the tweest.
yes. When Yvette threatened her and said, "How dare you take my man? Try
Yes,
to take
a
my man
I don't know.
from me."
confrontation. It was a proper confrontation. You thought there was going to be a cat fight
Yes.
any second.
Because-
Yes.
Michelle,
really-
Yvette rolled up her
Yes, she
sleeves.
did. She
Came
wrote,
towards
came
him.
toward it. Just a minute, but before you do anything,
I
let's
do
just
not really
talk.
like him. He
Yes.
drives me around the tweest.
She was wonderful, I thought, this
Yeah.
week. Again,
And-
Kirsten.
Yes, and then when she got René, she said, "Put your arms around me, wipe them on your apron first."
And then her look over his shoulder,
Yes, the
Yes.
grimace.
the
Yes.
grimace,
Oh.
and the
She
rolling
was-
of the eyes.
Yes, she was on absolutely top form.
And I loved Yvette as well. I loved her rolling up her sleeves and being so threatening.
Yes.
And also the fact that when Michelle said, "But what do you see in him?"
That's right. Oh, but we also had a René. What are you doing with your arms around that woman?
Oh, did we?
It was almost set up for a you stupid
Yes.
man.
Yes, but from Yvette.
Yes, no, it was Michelle of the Resistance who said, "What are you doing with your arms around?" Because
Oh, yes, yes.
No,
it
it was
Yvette.
it was Yvette who said it about Michelle of the Resistance.
Just very interesting.
Yvette walked in and found René in the arms of Michelle of the Resistance and said, "What are you doing with your arms?"
I mean, that
around
would story-wise
No.
would work better, but I think
It wasn't.
I'm sure it was Michelle
It
who
was.
said, "Listeners,
We're gonna have
not going to go through
We're going
all
to have to
that
watch it all
business."
again.
No, it was. It was the other way around. It was, yeah, he was hugging Yvette, I'm sure.
And Michelle popped in and said, "René, what are you doing with your arms around that waitress?"
I stand corrected.
Viewers and listeners, you know the form by this stage.
And you know who's
We haven't
pretty
got-
much always wrong. And I particularly enjoyed how I don't know how we got onto it, but green vegetables and Boris Karloff.
Oh,
It was so left field.
Yes, yes,
I
but,
think-
but that was the lovely thing with Yvette saying, when I'm with him, it's like watching a wonderful movie starring Boris Karloff.
Yes. When Yvette had finally told her why she loved this hideous man, said, you really need to eat more green vegetables.
Yes. But it was a stealthy setup, wasn't it? It was a stealthy setup to say, he makes me think of green vegetables. And we were just talking about green vegetables and Boris Karloff.
Yes.
Oh, that's all right. Then. And Mimi was given some nice things to do.
Yes, she was great this week, wasn't she? She
was.
had some lovely
She
stuff.
was.
Yes.
And obviously has a, I don't know, whatever the sound equivalent is of a photographic memory, because she was asked to repeat the message and beep, 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 beep.
That was so funny.
And they rounded off with, I don't know. And she goes, beep, 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 beep. Yes. And she had a nice little nifty scene with Monsieur Leclerc in a very dapper suit, I thought.
Yeah.
He must have behaved. He must have been in the right
Savile
colour.
Row job,
Yeah.
if
Yeah.
ever I saw one.
Yeah. Yes, he looked very smart.
And-
It was a lovely little scene they had together.
And when you say he must have behaved, it really, he must have behaved for once.
For once. And we ought to explain that to those who may not have heard this. There was a little story we told before about when Christian Dial, the costume designer, came on board. He had two columns. One on the right for people who behave and don't make a fuss during the fittings, and one on the left for people who do make a fuss. And the people on the right-hand column who didn't make a fuss were taken to Savile Row and had most fantastic suits made.
Beautiful silk dressing gowns
Oh, yes.
and things.
And the ones who didn't behave went into the left-hand column and had to go up to the costume store at White City. And I think that's why Kirsten, Michelle of the Resistance, kept being given new scarves, because that was the only thing that he could give her.
Yes.
Because the rest of the time she was in a gabardine mac.
Yeah.
But I think she said they were handmade, the gabardine macs.
Oh, were they?
Really?
Yes.
They were probably tailored around her pregnant bump.
Yes, except I don't think she's pregnant bump this time.
No, we've established that we think that she's...
Not right now, but usually.
Yeah. Why have I got Heidelberg written down?
No idea.
No.
Oh, it was Fred Bryant.
Fred Bryant,
Bryant.
who played the other general.
Yes.
There was
Well,
Ken Morley, who
who
played
was,
Flockenstaffen,
Flockenstaffen.
and whose accent, I didn't remember how wonderful his voice
Well,
was.
he's
It was
just
a lovely
daft,
accent.
isn't he?
And
He's
it's
daft
sort
and
of
completely mad.
It's creepy.
But his
and
flickering eyes
Yes.
and
Yes.
his whole completely
Yes.
barking mad.
it was
I'm
barking
going
mad,
to do an
wasn't it?
impression.
Yeah.
Hello, everybody. No, that was awful.
That was.
It was.
But then he spoke English. And hello, chaps. Come with me.
No, it was awfully good. And then
Yeah.
Fred Bryant, who played the other general whose name I don't know. I don't think we were given it, were we?
Well, I must have shouted
But
it
he was-
out last week, but
Do you think?
I can't remember what it was.
But he was
now
awfully
either.
good, wasn't he?
Did
Yeah.
you
Yes.
tell me?
And the two of them together were lovely.
But Fred, I'm sure there was a time when we did the stage show, and I can't remember why, but Richard Marner, playing the Colonel,
off.
was off.
You said.
And they hoiked Fred in, got hold of him very quickly, and he came in and played the Colonel for a good few weeks.
Yeah.
I don't remember that.
Yeah.
Isn't that awful?
He
Because
was
he's so
terrific.
good.
Yeah.
He's so good.
Well, maybe it was when you weren't in it, because there were times when you weren't in the stage show.
I didn't do New Zealand.
Can you not tap the table, please?
Editor.
Engineer, editor.
Anyway, whenever it was, Fred was marvellous, I remember.
Yes.
I still just cackle at Ken
Yeah, very
Morley's
funny.
madness. He was
Yes.
completely insane.
Yeah.
Completely terrifyingly insane.
And this is before he was Reg Holdsworth.
Yeah.
Who then went on to be an actor as well. He had that same right when he had been Reg Holdsworth. Impression number 2 out of the way. What I really liked was all the plot, the fact that the story galloped along and it then set up for next week. We remember we were saying they have two ways of doing it. Sometimes they would overlap episodes, so you get the beginning of a story just before the end of an episode.
Yeah.
But with this one, with all the people piling into the truck, what kind of a truck was it
A
again?
fish truck.
Fish truck.
Fish truck.
Fish truck.
You just knew it was establishing what's going to happen because they've got to get out of it.
Yeah.
There are all these generals dressed up as French onion sellers. For those who haven't seen it, where do you begin? There were lots of generals who, for some reason, set up by General von Klinkerhoffen, they had to dress up as onion sellers so they could plan their escape or the invasion.
No, the invasion of England.
In the cafe. Meanwhile, a whole lot of airmen came into the cafe also dressed as onion sellers.
Yes.
And meanwhile, a whole lot of French peasants were co-opted by the Germans, dressed up as German generals,
Yes.
and put into the town square order that the real German generals, who were disguised as onion sellers,
Wouldn't get blown
were in
up.
the cafe, wouldn't get blown up.
Yep.
And so
And then on top of all that, there was a bombing raid.
That's right.
Yes.
They were all
Or
bummed by
should
the
I say
RAF.
a bumming
They
raid.
were bummed by the RAF. And everybody had to rush around trying to find a bomb shelter.
Yes.
And the wrong people, of course, got into the fish truck
Yes,
and
the
were
Germans
driven to
got
the
into
coast.
The fish truck and the airmen
Mixed up
our
with
two-
the airmen.
Our 2 airmen, who the whole reason was to get them down the line and out. They got told that the truck was full and they couldn't.
They were the only ones who didn't get in the truck. And so they mixed up all these generals and these British airmen. It was so next week is going to be quite rich.
Yes,
It really
yes,
is.
absolutely.
And so, of course, virtually the curtain line was, as we all knew it would be, was the 2 airmen coming back into the cafe and saying, "When's the next fish truck?"
Oh, listeners and viewers, I don't often say this, but if ever there is a time to go and seek out this episode, this is a particularly choice one.
Yeah, so this
It
is
actually
a series 5, episode
Episode
11,
11.
called The Confusion of the Generals.
Yes, I think just go for the confusion of the generals, because you start getting into that
The
episode
numbering.
2 seasons, because I don't think the DVD publishers know about our little season business, and they don't want to, and nor do the viewers and listeners.
No, this is true.
And I certainly don't.
I've just remembered, I've just seen something that I'd written down, which was in the Colonel's office, when Gruber tells General von Klinkenhofen that actually René has been quite helpful and should be rewarded for being helpful. And von Klinkenhofen says he should be given a medal.
That's
Sneaky collaborators,
Yes,
class
First class.
1.
Yeah.
I thought Hillary delivered all those with absolute precision.
Yeah, because it was
Perfection.
sneaky, wasn't it? Yeah.
Sneaky.
And then we had some fun. There was the business about when Herr Flick was in hospital in his black silk pyjamas,
Oh,
Black
God.
silk
with their
pyjamas.
legs strapped up.
With
in
chains
plaster.
everywhere.
Yes.
Yes.
And
Chains
pulleys.
holding
And your
in
legs
pulleys
sort
and
of
chains.
semi-suspended, wasn't it? On a
You have
chain.
pulled my pulley.
And of course, you knew when you saw that he was suspended by pulleys, and that you told Helga that she may kiss you. You
Yeah.
just knew that she would pull the pulleys as she bent down.
So
to
the
you.
leg would go up
So
in
the
a
leg-
slightly suggestive fashion.
Exactly.
But also,
But then you said, "You are pulling my pulley," and I let it go. And your leg did go crashing down.
but there was a Heil Hitler in there as well, so you had to, with the other arm, you had to pull the chair. It was puppetry, really, wasn't it? Oh, we've had some fun. I really do recommend that you watch this episode.
Yes.
What's it called?
It's called Confusion of the Generals.
And I think what will happen is you'll watch this one and you'll want to know what happens, and you'll end up watching the next one as well, which
Yeah.
we're about to do.
Yes, I'm glad we
Which
are.
we're about to do after a nice cup of tea.
Have a cup of tea. Have a cup of tea.
You were saying something very interesting, actually. About,
No.
you were
For once, he was.
surprisingly. Yes.
I agree entirely. Go.
Yesterday, we had somebody come to talk to us about working with us. And he is from the Indian community. He's actually brought up in London, but his parents are Indian and grew up in Uganda. In fact, they've lived practically next door to me. And he was saying how it resonates, the sort of community thing. And even though it's set in World War II in France, people in his community really relate to it. And they relate to the status thing. And it led us to start looking at other David Croft shows, and that's the common thread, isn't it?
Yes.
Because in China, people were watching it for a while, and I suppose in China they have villages, and they have people trying to better themselves, and people scheming and plotting.
Yes, it's sort of about ambition as well, isn't it?
Yes.
Very much. Are You Being Served is a great example of everyone's sort of battling to keep their status or
Yes.
move up a little bit.
And the family thing, as you were saying earlier, with the old mother-in-law upstairs and the philandering and all of that, and
Yes.
like in both Allo and indeed Dad's Army, where the boy and his mother, the family there, and the
Yes.
and the lover, the John LeMessurier character being the lover, and family dynamic is always one of David Croft's
Yes.
things, as it were.
But David Croft had 7 children, so there was a big community just at home.
Yes.
And I think that has a lot to do. Well, I think the reason he had 7 children is because he understands and enjoys the sort of dynamics of lots of people together.
Yeah.
And all his shows had 15 people in them.
Yeah.
And then that's before you get to the animals. Because David's family had lots and lots of animals, and they often popped up in the show. He was always doing little animal jokes.
Yes,
He was.
Yes,
Yes,
true.
the-
We always say the David Croft dog.
Yeah, the dog doing
Yes.
the double
Yeah.
take. And
Yes, that's right.
Yeah. Oh wow.
But yes, he made another good point as well, which was he said in Indian communities, the newest generation will watch the television with their grandparents, and that the grandparents and the children have the relationship while the parents presumably are going out and working and
Probably working, yes.
bringing home a crust. And we get a lot of people that say to us when we do our signings or whatever that they used to stick when they were younger with their grandparents and watch it.
More often than with their parents.
Yeah, it seems.
But going back to Dad's Army, it was not only a community, but there was also rank. Because it's implied in things like, are you being served? The rank is where you get to. And in
And class.
well, that's where-
And
yes.
very much
Very much
class.
to do with
Are you being
class.
served? Yes.
But there was a class element in Dad's Army as well, because Arthur Lowe was from a sort of lower middle class background.
Indeed.
But he was senior to John LeMessurier, who was from a public school background.
Whom he very much resented for having gone to a good public school and knowing the right people
That's
and
right.
being a member of the
Yes.
golf club and all that.
Yes.
Which he couldn't possibly join himself.
Yes. And that goes through all of them. And then in Heidi High, there's Peggy, the chambermaid, who's desperate to be a yellowcoat.
Yeah.
And again, that's about people trying to better themselves in a big community of people.
Yes. Yeah.
So that was quite fun, I thought.
It was. And it gave us a different perspective on the shows.
Yeah.
And also, like with Allo, everybody has very much got their own agenda. Nobody is ever there just to be funny or
Yes.
just because they're there. Everybody is focused on something, some sort
Intention.
of ambition or intention or
Yes.
A reason
escaping
for
or
being.
yes.
Yes. As they always talk about with script writing, a character needs to have a want
Yeah.
and a need, and they have to change
Yes.
in some way, throughout the storyline.
Yeah.
They have in some way to learn something,
Make a
change.
journey.
Yeah, to make a journey. And yes, and you're absolutely right. Every character has a want, and they all make little journeys throughout the
Yeah.
series. It's
I think the airmen, their wants are often dictated by other people, though. aren't they? They don't really want very much.
yeah,
I just
except
want to go home.
yeah, sort of want to go home if possible.
Yeah.
Or sometimes want to go
Otherwise-
back into the prisoner of war camp.
Yes, or just want a sandwich
Yeah.
because they haven't been fed for weeks.
No, no.
Yes, yeah.
Oh, pliers. That's going right back to the pilot.
It indeed it is. Oh, he's got something wrong with his teeth. Here are some pliers.
No, no. So, well, dear listeners, I'm afraid that's it. Oh, for God's sake. Well, dear listeners, I think that's it for this week. What do you think, guys and girls?
I
and
think so.
kittens?
I think it's time for a cup of coffee.
I think it's time for a
I
cup of
think it
coffee,
is.
and or indeed a cup of this delicious tea.
Yes.
So watch the episode, and then we'll come back with the next one next week.
Bye.
Bye.
So, if you have any questions,
For answers,
Or stories, or
Kim,
Guy,
or Richard,
contact us on
Helga,
pod@helgagruberflick.com.
.com. That's pod at helgagruberflick.com.
Come.